Demonology by King James I. Bet you didn't know that King James wrote a book. Or he have some ideas in another book there. For those of you who don't know the book, I want to tell you, try to get a copy and look in it. King James I, the same man where everybody in Jamaica have a book where is a version, King James, a theme version to what is supposed to be the Bible. Well, King James I was from Scotland. And King James I was a very superstitious person. Very superstitious. And King James I also gave power to William Shakespeare. William Shakespeare wrote a play in honor of King James I. And William Shakespeare had interests in businesses in this part of the world that transported Africans from Africa to this part of the world and America. Only people don't know that about William Shakespeare. William Shakespeare was a good friend of King James I. Well, you're not going to find that in the book still, when I tell you about, but it's just an anecdote. Since we did that talk about King James, I remember say, William Shakespeare was part of the team that helped to give you the King James version of the Bible. King James have a book. There's a book named Demonology. King James I, the same King James version, the same man who gave you the version of the Bible that most people read. A very open-eyed revelation to this man who gave us a version of the Jewish book and the Roman book. I say Roman book because from Matthew to Revelation is Roman. Most of the authors of that, what them call so-called New Testaments, were Roman aristocrats. I dare anyone to dispute what we are saying here now. Most of the authors of your New Testament, it was given to us by Roman aristocrats, namely Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. King James is one of the most known kings of England because of that book. And we read the book. We talk about the Bible. We read the Bible from Genesis 1 to Revelation 22. And we started to think about what we read. And think about what we read. And we realized that what we read was supposed to keep us in subjugation to a kind of thinking that has perpetuated amongst African people. And the version, the 500 years version that was given to African people during the time of slavery has helped to pacify and subdue African people so as not to allow them to think about their disposition in life. Because the book is there to give you hope. The book is there to give you hope that when you die, things will be better for you and your loved ones who live according to the book. But if you don't live according to the book, you will die a bitter and lonely death as a slave, because you were born in sin and you were shaped in iniquity. You were born in sin and were shaped in iniquity. So African people hold fast to that book, the version that King James gave us as their saving grace to reach that Netherland. And I'm not talking about Holland now when I say Netherland. I'm talking about that life that is prepared for us when we die. And if we live according to the book, we will find solace in our Savior's bosom, sitting at the right hand of that Father in heaven. 500 years since that book was given to us, that King James Version, and the situation after that 500 years has been the most horrible historical reference point in black people history since that King James Version was given to us. The most horrific time in Africa, African mentality. And it still continues unto this day because of that book, that King James Version. Because after we hug up the book, remember them come to Africa with them gun and the Bible, the King James Bible. And we had land and land and more land and more land. And they taught us to pray with our eyes closed. And when we opened them, they had our land and we had the Bible, the King James Version. And it has been going on for centuries that African people has allowed a book to run them life for 400 years, nearly 500 years now. And as a collective group of people domiciled on these farm and slave plantation island and the Americas, we still hold fast to that book, that King James Version, that has not allowed us as a people, as a race, to gather momentum in the modern days of science and technology, economic wealth, social conditioning, and just being happy as a people, as a group of people that was here thousands of years before that book, that King James Version. Thousands. What were we doing before that book, that King James Version, take hold of our mind? What were we doing in Africa? Thousands of years with institutions and governments and science and just being happy. What were we doing before that book, that King James Version, hold us in bondage up to this day after 500 years of that book, that King James Version? We're still crying out for a Savior to come and save us.